Why is Jets head coach Aaron Glenn so reluctant on not naming his QB1 for Sunday's matchup against the Browns, especially with Justin Fields coming off a pretty solid performance and a win and a bye week? So our New York Post sports columnist Mark Cannizzaro was at Glenn's media availability on Monday. He asked some questions, and he's on now to talk all things Jets QB1. Mark, thanks for hopping on with us. Before we get started, we're going to play a little bit from Glenn's press conference, and then we're going to get your reaction.
Hey, G, I know it's early in the week, but I think the assumption is because of the way that Justin played the other day, that he'll go with him going forward. Is that your plan right now? Is that, as we sit here right now, is that what your plan is?
Rich, is that you asking that question?
Cannizzaro.
Cannizzaro, Mark, I'm not going to give you that answer. The thing is, you will find out soon who our starting quarterback could be. And Justin did a hell of a job against Cincinnati, but I'm going to keep that close to the vest. As we go throughout the week, I know you guys are going to ask me again. You're going to get the same answer. So you know who the starting quarterback is when we go out there for Cleveland.
What do you think it would look like, though, if after the performance that Justin had the other day, he is not playing us this week?
Well, that is nothing for you to worry about, is it?
Well, I'm very worried, though, Aaron.
Well, you shouldn't be.
Ooh, it's what the kids call spicy, Mark. All right, we're professionals here. Almost 24 hours later, how are you now feeling about Aaron Glenn's decision not to name the QB1, and of course his interaction with you guys on Monday?
Yeah, Brandon, this is the way that Aaron's operating right now. He's trying to set a tone. I get it. I've covered it. I've known him for a long time. I've covered his entire career as a player when I was a Jets beat writer for the Post. We get along very well. I'm not insulted by the way he operated there. I just don't really get it. I feel like it's just kind of silly. Particularly when you look at the way that Justin Fields performed, not only performed on the field in the Jets win in Cincinnati, their only win of the year, by the way. How are you not going to play him? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Not to mention the fact that Tyrod Taylor is still, according to Aaron, it's from the sounds of our Zoom yesterday when we asked him about Tyrod, he said he'll be practicing, to some degree this week, which tells us that his knee is still not right. So if anybody thinks Cleveland does not know that Justin Fields is starting, then they're not paying a lot of attention. So, it's become kind of a weird, funny banter issue, particularly like Rich Samini, are my colleague from ESPN. We both have covered, Aaron since he was a player. And, I don't really know why he does it this way. I don't really understand the competitive advantage or disadvantage. They're both similar. They both, can run out of the pocket a little bit. The game plan does not change, with either guy in the lineup. So I don't really know why Aaron's doing it to me. Honestly, they're 1-7. It seems kind of pointless, to do that. But that's just the way he wants to operate. He's been very, very sensitive about the quarterback thing. And you and I were just talking off the air a little bit, Brandon. All summer long, it's been like, well, hey, why hasn't there been a competition? Basically he was, Fields was anointed the starting role. And Aaron has been very, very conscious about trying to avoid any element of a quarterback controversy. But the weird thing to me is like by not naming Justin the starter, it's almost kind of, stirring that up a little bit, even though we know that Tyrod's not going to be playing.
When you read some of the comments under the post, there are some fans that are asking why does he need to name a QB1 right now? They're thinking what's the media's fascination with who the starter is, especially in a non-competitive year? What would you say to that?
Well, what I would say to that is it's a natural question to ask because of the fact he played so well against Cincinnati, and we went into that week with Justin and Tyrod supposedly, according to Glenn, competing for that starting role in Cincinnati. And the quarterback is the most important position on the field, as we well know. Look at the Giants and what's the attention to Jackson Dart. Why does anybody want to know anything about him? It's the most important position on the field. And quite frankly, truth be told, on a 1-7 team, there's not a hell of a lot more to talk about than what's going on with the quarterback situation, right? Are we going to talk about a right guard competition or, who's going to be the starting, long snapper? There's not much going on in a 1-7 team right now. This is a team that's just trying to figure it out, get another win, try to build on the program that Aaron is trying to build. But yeah, in answer to the readers, responses and questions to that, that's as frank as I can be. I mean, what else are we talking about with the Jets right now? I mean, other than the trade deadline that's coming up, which I don't see much going on there, or I don't think there should be a lot going on there. But so yeah, I that's my answer to the reason why we're asking about the quarterback. We always ask about the quarterback. That's it's the focal point of every NFL team.
We should have brought out the TO side. That's my quarterback.
Yeah.
All right, so you mentioned the trade deadline. You didn't think there was going to be much going on before 4 p.m. today. You think that's because they've already made some moves? You don't think Darren Muji still is in the buying and selling?
No, I think that there could be some sort of activity. I wrote last week, Breece Hall, the Jets running back, is probably the most talked about commodity in this trade deadline situation that the Jets face. Um, I'm sure. I mean, listen, I know that there's teams that have been reaching out to the Jets about that. The Chiefs, should be first on the list right now. And my issue is I think, there are teams that are going to be trying to get Breece Hall for a fourth round draft pick, which to me is an absolute waste of time on the Jets' part. And I wrote this, the other day, and my colleague Steve Serby, actually followed up with a good column in today's post, essentially saying similar things. If you want to build around the Jets don't have a ton of really good players on there. They've got good players, but they're not, their roster's not laden with great players. You need to build around guys, and obviously they started by doing that, by giving, the contracts to Sauce, Gardner, and Garrett Wilson in the offseason. Breece did not get a contract extension. I just feel like, Breece is one of the very few dynamic weapons the Jets have on their roster. Why are you going to get rid of him for a fourth round draft pick who's not going to be as good as Breece Hall anyway, even a third? I said in my column last week, and I think Serb said the same thing today, unless a team is talking about a second round draft pick, I don't think there should be a conversation. So, I get it. It's about money too, and they're going to have to extend Breece if they want to keep him. Otherwise, you're wasting getting something back for him. But I think Breece is a guy that they should build around. Same thing for Jermaine Johnson. I mean, I think they're insane if they let that guy go. He's a leadership quality guy with a great motor, and it matters to him. I mean, he's one of the hardest playing players on that team. If you want to talk about Quinn and Williams, maybe that's a different story because you can get a higher pick for him. Obviously, defensive tackles are a premium. If you can get something like a first round draft pick for him or whatever, then maybe you go that way if you don't want to pay him, and extend him. But I just feel like there's not going to be any blockbuster move today. The Jets already got, the receiver Mechie the other day from the Eagles, which I thought was a good move. Michael Carter was not, he'd been kind of phased out in the secondary. So I thought getting a receiver, which the Jets desperately need some receiver help because you could just see from last week, they're scuffling without Garrett Wilson in there, and hopefully Garrett's going to return on Sunday. But yeah, listen, they might blow the whole thing up between now, but between when this podcast goes out and 4 o'clock in the afternoon comes out today. But I am not expecting blockbuster moves today.
All right, Mark Cannizzaro, thank you for your time today, sir.